Hey, fellow babies. Welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I'm Michael Pachter, your host, at Michael Pachter on Twitter. If you are watching this real time when it's brand new, it's because you are helping us out by being either a patron on Patreon, and thank you very much, or by linking your Amazon Prime and your Twitch Prime accounts. Amazon pays us for that, so it costs you nothing. It's part of your Prime benefit. If you can remember to do that, the description on how to do that is in the show description below. And then finally, you could be a YouTube subscriber. That would be great too. You're getting it real time. If you're not subscribing, we understand times are tough. Everybody's got a job and plenty of money, but they don't want to spend it. But you're getting it on YouTube a week later. And again, I insist on that because I don't get paid, as you know. But we do have to pay for production. It costs money to actually put this up. So appreciate your patronage. Wishing all of you a very happy holiday. From SIFTD, from V. Nunes, reporting on Microsoft's Activision Blizzard purchase makes it seem like Call of Duty is the only IP involved in the acquisition. How much power does Call of Duty really have? Can a single franchise really dictate the outcome of such a gigantic purchase with Diablo, Warcraft, StarCraft involved? Do you think the purchase will go through before the July 23 deadline? Activision stock price is hinting that investors are skeptical. It's not just Call of Duty, and unfortunately, I think that regulators and even Sony, Call of Duty is the biggest franchise, obviously. Diablo, if you think about Diablo, we can argue if it's as big as Call of Duty or not, but it's not annual. So the last Diablo came out in 2012. And the next one is coming out in 2023. So let's just pretend that Diablo is the same size as Call of Duty, but Call of Duty comes out every year and Diablo every 11 years. It's 1/11th the size. Call of Duty sells that many more units. And same World of Warcraft, 6 million subscribers paying an average probably across the board of $10 a month or something. It's a $700 million franchise. Great. That's great. Call of Duty is a $2 billion franchise, so 3 times as big. And Microsoft owning World of Warcraft isn't available on PlayStation. So people talk about this. It's not going to be available on PlayStation after the deal either. It's a PC game, but it'll be part of Game Pass. So the reason they're not talking about that, StarCraft last came out in 2010. I don't know if there is a StarCraft 3 planned, but if it is, it'll take 13 years to come out. So no, none of those games are even close to as big as Call of Duty. And that's really the reason everybody talks about it. But no, that the one game isn't really the issue. The issue is, and this is complicated, so I'm going to really dumb this down, not because you, V. Nunes, aren't smart enough, but because the average person watching just doesn't understand how the law works. The law across the board, there are multiple jurisdictions that try to regulate and decide on whether mergers should go through. Brazil's already approved it. The UK, so Great Britain, United Kingdom. So England, that's England, Scotland, and Wales, and Northern Ireland. The UK, the EU, which is 20 countries in Europe, and the US, FTC. So the 3, UK, EU, and FTC. Those 3 guys all have the same law, and the law says, again, not identical but close enough. The law says that a combination of 2 companies or more than one company shall be prohibited if it results in a substantial lessening of competition. So the right way to think about that, because again, there's lots of negatives in there, prohibited and lessening, is the world is the way it is before the merger. Let's call that status quo, meaning nothing changes, everything is the way it is. After the merger, if the status quo is changed and the result of changing it is competition is lower, the deal shouldn't be approved. That's what it means. So the reason I am 100% confident that this deal is going through is that All Microsoft has to do is agree to maintain the status quo. And the status quo right now is Call of Duty appears on PlayStation. And if you go back and read Phil Spencer's statements, his tweet, he tweeted on January 19th or 20th that we'll continue to support PlayStation with Call of Duty. And then you read the Microsoft Xbox blog, it said, we will continue to support the PlayStation with Call of Duty. And then you listen to interviews with Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, and he said, we'll continue to support PlayStation with Call of Duty. And you read all the different legal filings, and they have said, they've offered Sony, apparently, a 10-year extension of the contract. So, again, none of that is legally binding. Microsoft will have to enter into a legally binding written agreement that says we'll continue to make Call of Duty available for PlayStation. But they've told you repeatedly that they're going to do that. So, status quo. Call of Duty is available on PlayStation. After the deal, Microsoft agrees they'll keep it available for PlayStation. Status quo maintained. Where is the lessening of competition? There is none. PlayStation has Call of Duty before, PlayStation has Call of Duty after. And if you think about it, that's like, like somebody buying a donut shop. You go out and buy a donut shop. Are people able to buy donuts there before and after? Yes. You didn't change competition. There is competition, the other donut shops, and they keep you honest. So as long as Sony gets what they had before, no lessening competition. There are some who believe that if Microsoft buys Activision and puts Call of Duty on Game Pass, that's bad for PlayStation. I am among those. That is bad for PlayStation. Guess what? That's not a lessening of competition. You know why? Because if you're a consumer and you don't own a PlayStation or an Xbox, and the only way you can play Call of Duty, I know it's on PC, but let's just for a second assume it's console only. The only way to play it is to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox, and all of a sudden it shows up on Game Pass. Instead of paying $500 for a console and $60 or $70 for the game, $560 or $570, you can pay $15 a month and play Call of Duty. That's what Game Pass does. So which is better, $15 a month until you're done playing Call of Duty, or $570? And by the way, you could play Call of Duty year-round. You can play it for 3 years and get the next 3 Call of Duties for the price of one on PlayStation. That is not a lessening of competition. That's more competition. That makes it cheaper. The definition of competition is designed to increase the price on consumers. If it's anti-competitive, lessening competition, higher price. More competition, lower price. Right? So, to make this simple, if Microsoft maintains the status quo, they get the deal done, and they will agree to maintain the status quo. If they're asked by the regulators not to put Call of Duty on the Game Pass, they will actually demonstrate to regulators, no, that's good for consumers because it's cheaper, right? And as long as we don't take it off of PlayStation, if you're a PlayStation owner, you don't have to join Game Pass. You can play it. You already have your PlayStation. Pay $70, play Call of Duty, no problem. So we aren't going to disadvantage PlayStation. And it's sort of like saying, if Netflix has a TV show and you can also watch it on TV, do you care? Like, no, you don't care. It doesn't cost you anything to let Netflix have it. So I truly believe this deal is going through. Before July 23rd, the 3 remaining agencies that are looking at this, the US FTC, the UK Competition and Markets Authority, and the EU Competition Commission. The FTC set no deadline. The UK set a March 1st deadline, and the EU set an April 11th deadline. Well, because they all have the same law, the UK is going to be decided by March 1st. And assuming Microsoft passes the UK's muster, what's the EU going to do? They're going to accept it. What's the FTC going to do? They're going to accept it. Now, the US and the EU have kind of a very poor path to challenge this. The UK's got a little stronger path because they make their own rules. But the EU and the FTC essentially are subject to what courts are going to decide. And if Microsoft files in court and says, look, these guys are being unreasonable, we're maintaining the status quo, they're going to win within 30 days. So the deal's absolutely going to close. The UK might say, the way the UK law works, we're allowed to make the rules ourselves, and we're going to make a rule that just says, screw you, you lose because we don't like you. So what Microsoft will do there is say, okay, we're going to go through your UK internal administrative process, which takes 3 years. And what we're going to do is, for the UK only, we're not doing anything differently after the acquisition than we did before. So no Game Pass. There's no way Call of Duty's on Game Pass. And yes, Call of Duty on PlayStation. Then the UK can't stop anything. The deal will close. So the only thing that's going to happen is UK customers aren't going to have access to Call of Duty on Game Pass, which, by the way, is anti-competitive. It's not good. But Microsoft will do that, and the press will be on their side. And then that could take as long as 3 years to resolve, and ultimately it's going to resolve in Microsoft's favor. So the answer is, this deal's closing. I believe that the FTC is posturing when they leaked out to Politico that they're considering suing. They just want Microsoft to come to the table, sign a binding agreement to continue to support PlayStation. Then the FTC can run a victory lap and say, look what we made Microsoft do. But deal's closing. If I had to bet on a firm date, before April 15th. When you look at Disney buying Fox, Disney didn't buy Fox because of Avatar on Disney Plus, right? They bought Fox because of Avatar in theaters, and they didn't buy Fox because of Deadpool on Disney Plus, Deadpool in theaters. They bought Fox because of Simpsons. Because now Disney Plus is worth so much more. They bought it because they want that, and not just that. I mean, obviously, 1 million Fox shows. So, what's Call of Duty 1 through 18 worth? Not that they're ready to play, but if Sony says, and I just had a call with a client about this. If Sony says, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't fair. They have Call of Duty catalog titles on Game Pass, and we don't have them on PS Plus," Microsoft will go, "Yeah, but Call of Duty 1 was on PS2. Shut up. They're all available. If you want to play them, just go buy an old PlayStation and buy a digital copy. You can play them." So Sony has no argument about the catalog. None. And yet, as a Game Pass member, you're like, wait a minute, I get 18 Call of Duties? How many of you viewers out there who play Call of Duty have played every version of Call of Duty in the franchise, in history? And the answer is, if you're under 30, no, you haven't. Sorry. If you're over 30, maybe. But how many of you would like to? All of you. Now, Microsoft's cool. They're not going to offer, the first Call of Duty was 2003. They're not going to offer like the 2003 PS2 version looking like that. They'll remaster it. But that's part of what they want. They want to remaster all of them. And have, my God, take every map from every Call of Duty multiplayer ever and put it out there for multiplayer. People will love that. And it's not just that. Then you say, what about StarCraft? What about Warcraft? What about Diablo? Oh my God, Diablo 1, 2, and 3? Yes. Yes, I want to play that. The biggest winner, as far as the consumer goes, biggest consumer winner of this merger is a World of Warcraft player. Okay? I mean, there'll be more people, more competitive people trying to get in your guild. So, and again, the people I talk to who play it say the hardest thing is keeping the guild together, because so many players get tired and they lost time. Yeah, or the raids take like 2 hours on a Friday night, and people just can't coordinate to be there. And so, obviously, New Blood, I think New Blood's good in all games. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor. Again, wishing you a very, very happy Festivus, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, anything else that you might choose to celebrate if you don't celebrate. Hope you just have a peaceful end of the year and a happy new year. We will see you next time.